What's up, everybody? This is an audiobook of the Dao De Jing, alternately titled the Dao De Jing, that ancient scroll that has been enlightening and vexing people for the last 22 some odd centuries. And this is a matching translation, meaning I'm reading this in both Chinese and English, and I want to keep this introduction by the reader super short. If you want, you'll find no shortage of write-ups about this book on the internet or at the library, and if you want my write-up, then just look me up on the internet. I'm at jmegasystems.com. Trigger warning, this is literally an ancient scroll, and it has a lot of weird stuff to say, and it has a lot of good stuff to say, and the weird stuff isn't always the good stuff. End of opening note by the reader. This performance is copyright Creative Commons CC BY NC SA, Junichiro Megasystems. Some but not all rights reserved. The Dao De Jing is made of 81 very short chapters. This recording of the Dao De Jing is divided into 4 audio tracks. Track 1, chapters 1 through 20. Dao De Jing, the title meaning something like The Classic of the Way and Excellence by Lao Tzu, the name meaning something like The Old Master, or just Old Guy. Actually, the same word has become an epithet like you would yell if you're angrily having an argument with an old person in modern Chinese, but anyways, the Dao De Jing. Chapter 1, 第一章. The Tao that can be trodden is not the enduring and unchanging Tao. The name that can be named is not the enduring and unchanging name. Dao ke dao, fei chang dao. Ming ke ming, fei chang ming. Conceived of as having no name, it is the originator of heaven and earth. Conceived of as having a name, it is the mother of all things. 无名，天地之始；有名，万物之母。Always without desire we must be found, if its deep mystery we would sound. But if desire always within us be, its outer fringe is all that we shall see. 故常无欲，以观其妙；常有欲，以观其教。Under these two aspects, it is really the same, but as development takes place, it receives the different names. 此两者，同出而异名。Together we call them the mystery, where the mystery is the deepest, is the gate of all that is subtle and wonderful. 同谓之玄，玄之又玄，众妙之门。Chapter 2, 第二章. All in the world know the beauty of the beautiful, and in doing this they have the idea of what ugliness is. 天下皆知美之为美，斯恶已. They all know the skill of the skillful, and in doing this they have the idea of what the want of skill is. 皆知善之为善，斯不善已. So it is that existence and non-existence give birth the one to the idea of the other, that difficulty and ease produce the one the idea of the other, that length and shortness fashion out of the one the figure of the other. 有无相生，难易相成，长短相形. That the ideas of height and lowness arise from the contrast of the one with the other, that the musical notes and tones become harmonious through the relation of one with another, and that being before and behind give the idea of one following another. 高下相倾，音声相和，前后相随. Therefore the sage manages affairs without doing anything. 是以圣人，处无为之事. And conveys his instructions without the use of speech. All things spring up, and there is not one which declines to show itself. 行不言之教，万物作而弗始. They grow, and there is no claim made for their ownership. They go through their processes, and there is no expectation of a reward for the results. The work is accomplished, and there is no resting in it as an achievement. 生而弗有，为而弗恃，功成而不居. The work is done, but how no one can see. 'Tis this that makes the power not cease to be. 夫为弗居，是以不惧。 Chapter 3. 第三章. Not to value and employ men of superior ability is the way to keep people from rivalry amongst themselves. 不尚贤，使民不争. Not to prize articles which are difficult to procure is the way to keep them from becoming thieves. 不贵难得之货，使民不为盗. Not to show them what is likely to excite their desires is the way to keep their minds from disorder. 不见可欲，使民心不乱. Therefore the sage, in the exercise of his government, empties their minds, fills their bellies, weakens their wills, and strengthens their bones. 是以圣人之治，虚其心，实其腹，弱其志，强其骨. He constantly tries to keep them without knowledge and without desire, and where there are those who have knowledge, to keep them from presuming to act on it. 常使民无知无欲，使夫智者不敢为也. When there is this abstinence from action, good order is universal. 为无为，则无不治. Chapter 4. 第四章. The Tao is like the emptiness of a vessel, and in our employment of it we must be on our guard against all fullness. 道冲而用之或不盈. How deep and unfathomable it is, as if it were the honored ancestor of all things. 渊兮，似万物之宗. We should blunt our sharp points and unravel the complications of things. We should attemper our brightness and bring ourselves into agreement with the obscurity of others. 错其锐，解其分，和其光，同其尘. How pure and still the Tao is, as if it would ever so continue. I do not know whose son it is. It might appear to have been before God. 湛兮，似或存，吾不知谁之子，象帝之先. Chapter 5. 第五章. Heaven and earth do not act from the impulse of any wish to be benevolent. They deal with all things as the dogs of grass are dealt with. 天地不仁，以万物为刍狗. The sages do not act from any wish to be benevolent. They deal with the people as the dogs of grass are dealt with. 圣人不仁，以百姓为刍狗. May not the space between heaven and earth be compared to a bellows? 天地之间，其有橐越乎? 'Tis emptied, yet it loses not its power. 'Tis moved again, and sends forth air the more. 虚而不屈，动而欲出. Much speech to swift exhaustion lead we see. Your inner being guard and keep it free. 多言数穷，不如守中. Chapter 6. 第六章. The valley spirit dies not, I the same, the female mystery, thus do we name. 孤身不死，是谓玄牝. Its gate from which at first they issued forth is called the root from which grew heaven and earth. 玄牝之门，是谓天地根. Long and unbroken does its power remain, used gently and without the touch of pain. 绵绵若存，用之不勤. Chapter 7. 第七章. Heaven is long-enduring and earth continues long. The reason why heaven and earth are able to endure and continue thus long. 天长地久，天地所以能长且久者. Is because they do not live of or for themselves. This is how they are able to continue and endure. 以其不自生，故能长生. Therefore the sage puts his own person last, and yet it is found in the foremost place. He treats his person as if it were foreign to him, and yet that person is preserved. 是以圣人后其身而身先，外其身而身存。 Is it not because he has no personal and private ends that therefore such ends are realized? 非以其无私也，故能成其私。 Chapter 8. 第八章. The highest excellence is like that of water. The excellence of water appears in its benefiting all things. 上善若水，水善利万物而不争。 And in its occupying without striving to the contrary the low place which all men dislike. Hence its way is near to that of the Tao. 除众人之所恶，故几于道。 The excellence of a residence is in the suitability of the place. That of the mind is in abysmal stillness. That of associations is in their being with the virtuous. 居善地，心善渊，与善人。 That of government is in its securing good order. That of the conduct of affairs is in its ability. And that of the initiation of any movement is in its timeliness. 言善信，正善治，事善能，动善时。 And when one with the highest excellence does not wrangle about his low position, no one finds fault with him. 夫为不争，故无尤。 Chapter 9. 第九章. It is better to leave a vessel unfilled than to attempt to carry it when it is full. If you keep feeling a point that has been sharpened, the point cannot long preserve its sharpness. 持而盈之，不如其已；揣而锐之，不可长保。 When gold and jade fill the hall, their possessor cannot keep them safe. When wealth and honors lead to arrogancy, this brings evil on itself. 金玉满堂，莫之能守；富贵而骄，自遗其咎。 When the work is done and one's name is becoming distinguished, to withdraw into obscurity is the way of heaven. 功成身退，天之道也。 Chapter 10. 第十章. When the intelligent and animal souls are held together in one embrace, they can be kept from separating. When one gives undivided attention to the vital breath and brings it to the utmost degree of pliancy, he can become as a tender babe. 在营破抱衣，能无离乎？专气致柔，能婴儿乎？ When he has cleansed away the most mysterious sights of his imagination, he can become without a flaw. In loving the people and ruling the state, cannot he proceed without any purpose of action? 涤除玄览，能无疵乎？爱国治民，能无为乎？ In the opening and shutting of his gates of heaven, can he do so as a female bird? While his intelligence reaches in every direction, cannot he appear to be without knowledge? 天门开合，能为慈乎？明白四达，能无知乎？ The Tao produces all things and nourishes them. It produces them and does not claim them as its own. It does all and yet does not boast of it. 生之，畜之，生而不有，为而不恃。 It presides over all and yet does not control them. This is what is called the mysterious quality of the Tao. 长而不宰，是谓玄德。 Chapter 11. 第11章. The 30 spokes unite in the one nave, but it is on the empty space for the axle that the use of the wheel depends. Clay is fashioned into vessels, but it is on their empty hollowness that their use depends. The door and windows are cut out from the walls to form an apartment, but it is on the empty space within that its use depends. 30幅共一毂，当其无有车之用。言之以为器，当其无有器之用。凿户有以为室，当其无有室之用。Therefore, what has a positive existence serves for profitable adaptation, and what has not that for actual usefulness. 故有之以为利，无之以为用。Chapter 12. 第12章 Colors 5 hues from the eyes their sight will take. Music's 5 notes the ears as deaf can make. The flavors 5 deprive the mouth of taste. The chariot course and the wild hunting waste make mad the mind, and objects rare and strange, sought for men's conduct will to evil change. 无色令人目盲，无音令人耳聋，无味令人口爽，驰骋田猎令人心发狂，难得之货令人行妨。Therefore the sage seeks to satisfy the craving of the belly, and not the insatiable longing of the eyes. He puts from him the latter and prefers to seek the former. 是以圣人为父不为目，故去彼取此。Chapter 13. 第13章 Favor and disgrace would seem equally to be feared. Honor and great calamity to be regarded as personal conditions of the same kind. What is meant by speaking thus of favor and disgrace? 宠辱若惊，贵大患若身。何谓宠辱若惊？ Disgrace is being in a low position after the enjoyment of favor. The getting that favor leads to the apprehension of losing it, and the losing it leads to the fear of still greater calamity. This is what is meant by saying that favor and disgrace would seem equally to be feared. 宠为上，辱为下，得之若惊，失之若惊，是谓宠辱若惊。And what is meant by saying that honor and great calamity are to be similarly regarded as personal conditions? What makes me liable to great calamity is my having the body which I call myself. 何谓贵大患若身？无所以有大患者，唯无有身。If I had not the body, what great calamity could come to me? 即无身，无有何患。Therefore, he who would administer the kingdom, honoring it as he honors his own person, may be employed to govern it. And he who would administer it with the love which he bears to his own person may be entrusted with it. 故贵以身为天下，若可寄天下；爱以身为天下，若可托天下。Chapter 14. 第14章 We look at it, and we do not see it, and we name it the equable. We listen to it, and we do not hear it, and we name it the inaudible. We try to grasp it, and do not get hold of it, and we name it the subtle. 视之不见，名曰夷；听之不闻，名曰希；博之不得，名曰微。With these 3 qualities, it cannot be made the subject of description, and hence we blend them together and obtain the one. 此三者，不可致诘，故混而为一。Its upper part is not bright, and its lower part is not obscure. 其上不矫，其下不昧。Ceaseless in its action, it yet cannot be named, and then it again returns and becomes nothing. 绳绳不可名，复归于无物。 This is called the form of the formless and the semblance of the invisible. This is called the fleeting and indeterminable. 是谓无状之状，无物之象，是谓惚恍。 We meet it and do not see its front. We follow it and do not see its back. 迎之不见其首，随之不见其后。 When we can lay hold of the Tao of old to direct the things of the present day, and are able to know it as it was of old in the beginning, this is called unwinding the clue of Tao. 知古之道，以喻今之有，能知古始，是谓道纪。 Chapter 15. 第15章 The skillful masters of the Tao in old times, with a subtle and exquisite penetration, comprehended its mysteries. 古之善为士者，微妙玄通。 And were deep also so as to elude men's knowledge. As they were thus beyond men's knowledge, I will make an effort to describe of what sort they appeared to be. 深不可识，夫为不可识，故强为之容。 Shrinking looked they like those who wade through a stream in winter, irresolute like those who are afraid of all around them, grave like a guest in awe of his host. 欲兮若东涉川，游兮若为四邻，言兮其若客。 Evanescent like ice that is melting away, unpretentious like wood that has not been fashioned into anything, vacant like a valley, and dull like muddy water. 涣兮若冰之将逝，敦兮其若朴，旷兮其若谷，混兮其若浊。 Who can make the muddy water clear? Let it be still and it will gradually become clear. Who can secure the condition of rest? Let movement go on and the condition of rest will gradually arise. 孰能卓以静之时清？孰能安以动之时生？ They who preserve this method of the Tao do not wish to be full of themselves. It is through their not being full of themselves that they can afford to seem worn and not appear new and complete. 保此道者，不欲盈。夫为不盈，故能必不心诚。 Chapter 16. 第16章 The state of vacancy should be brought to the utmost degree, and that of stillness guarded with unwearying vigor. All things alike go through their processes of activity, and then we see them return to their original state. 志虚极，守静笃，万物并作，无以观复。 When things in the vegetable world have displayed their luxuriant growth, we see each of them return to its root. 夫物芸芸，各复归其根。 This returning to their root is what we call the state of stillness, and that stillness may be called a reporting that they have fulfilled their appointed end. 归根曰静，静曰复命。 The report of that fulfillment is the regular, unchanging rule. To know that unchanging rule is to be intelligent. Not to know it leads to wild movements and evil issues. 复命曰常，知常曰明，不知常，妄作凶。 The knowledge of that unchanging rule produces a grand capacity and forbearance, and that capacity and forbearance lead to a community of feeling with all things. From this community of feeling comes a kingliness of character, and he who is king-like goes on to be heaven-like. In that likeness to heaven he possesses the Tao. Possessed of the Tao, he endures long, and to the end of his bodily life is exempt from all danger of decay. 知常容，容乃公，公乃全，全乃天，天乃道，道乃久，莫身不殆。Chapter 17. 第17章 In the highest antiquity, the people did not know that there were their rulers. In the next age they loved them and praised them. 太上不知有之，其次亲而誉之。In the next, they feared them. In the next, they despised them. 其次畏之，其次侮之。Thus it was that when faith in the Tao was deficient in the rulers, a want of faith in them ensued in the people. 信不足焉，犹不信焉。How irresolute did those earliest rulers appear, showing by their reticence the importance which they set upon their words. Their work was done and their undertakings were successful, while the people all said, "We are as we are, of ourselves." 忧兮其贵言，功成事遂，百姓皆谓我自然。Chapter 18第18章 When the great Tao, way or method, ceased to be observed, benevolence and righteousness came into vogue. Then appeared wisdom and shrewdness, and there ensued great hypocrisy. When harmony no longer prevailed throughout the 6 kinships, filial sons found their manifestation. When the states and clans fell into disorder, loyal ministers appeared. 大道废，有仁义；智慧出，有大伪；六亲不和，有孝慈；国家混乱，有忠臣。Chapter 19第19章 If we could renounce our sageness and discard our wisdom, it would be better for the people 100-fold. If we could renounce our benevolence and discard our righteousness, the people would again become filial and kindly. If we could renounce our artful contrivances and discard our scheming for gain, there would be no thieves nor robbers. 决胜气质，民利百倍；绝人弃义，民复孝慈；绝巧弃利，盗贼无有。Those 3 methods of governments thought olden ways in elegance did fail, and made these names their want of worth to veil, but simple views and courses plain and true would selfish ends and many lusts eschew. 此3者以为文不足，故另有所属，见素抱朴，少思寡欲。Chapter 20第20章 When we renounce learning, we have no troubles. The ready yes and the flattering yea, small is the difference they display. But mark their issues good and ill, what space the gulf between shall fill. 绝学无忧，为之于阿，相去几何？善之于恶，相去若何？ What all men fear is indeed to be feared, but how wide and without end is the range of questions asking to be discussed. 人之所畏，不可不畏。荒兮其未央哉 The multitude of men look satisfied and pleased, as if enjoying a full banquet, as if mounted on a tower in spring. 众人熙熙，如享太牢，如春登台。I alone seem listless and still, my desires having as yet given no indication of their presence. I am like an infant which has not yet smiled. 我独泊兮，其未兆；顿顿兮，如婴儿之未孩。I look dejected and forlorn, as if I had no home to go to. 累累兮，若无所归。The multitude of men all have enough and to spare. I alone seem to have lost everything. My mind is that of a stupid man. I am in a state of chaos. 众人皆有余，而我独若遗。 我愚人之心也哉. Ordinary men look bright and intelligent, while I alone seem to be benighted. They look full of discrimination, while I alone am dull and confused. 俗人昭昭，我独昏昏；俗人察察，我独闷闷。I seem to be carried about as on the sea, drifting as if I had nowhere to rest. All men have their spheres of action, while I alone seem dull and incapable, like a rude borderer. 众人皆有仪，而我独顽似鄙。Thus I alone am different from other men, but I value the nursing mother, the Tao. 我独异于人，而鬼十母。